Alright, now let's look at some solid opening moves for black. We again start with a setup based opening. Against d4 you can go with knight f6. Now white can't play e4 because of this knight. So let's say he goes to c4, then g6, knight c3, then you can fianchetto the bishop, and now the moment he goes e4, that's when you play d6. You don't want him to push e5 and attack your knight. That's why this d6 move is important. Then knight f3 and you simply castle. This is what we call the King's Indian setup, and you can play this against anything, literally anything. Let's say instead of d4, white starts with e4. As I told you earlier, if he plays e4, you will just immediately play d6 to stop him from advancing forward. This opening is called the pierced defense, but the setup is similar to the King's Indian. He'll take the center, now you can play knight f6, he defends the pawn, then g6, bishop g7, and look at this, you reach the same setup of the King's Indian. I have made a separate video showing all the ideas in the pierced defense, you should definitely check it out here. Before I move on, I have noticed 70% of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel. So do subscribe guys, it's absolutely free and I would really appreciate it. Okay, now you might say, Jitendra, in the King's Indian, we are just giving away the center to white. That's not how I like to play. I want my pieces in the center right from the start. So if you want some d4, d5 action, then be prepared for the Queen's Gambit. c4 is by far the most popular move that white plays in this position. Now at a beginner level, I would suggest you don't accept this gambit and play something solid like e6 or c6. It's a fundamental opening and proven to be playable for both sides. Now as black, you can first complete your kingside development. Knight f6, then bishop e7, castles, your king is now safe. And once the king side is sorted, you can develop on the queen side. The bishop has to come out from here, so b6, then bishop b7. After this, you can get your knight here and then push this c pawn forward to open up the center. Obviously, your games will look different, but that's the main idea. Basically, the Queen's Gambit Declined is all about development and positioning your pieces on the right squares to form a strategy for the middle game. It's not that fast and not that slow either, just about perfect for a beginner. But still, some of you might say, Jitendra, I want to go even faster. I love tactics, so show me some sharp attacking openings. Well, for that, I would suggest you to try a variation of the Sicilian. Knight f3 d6 is all standard stuff, and then white's idea is to exchange this pawn and take control of the center with the knight. This is the open Sicilian. Now there is a lot of theory in many different variations of the Sicilian, so to keep it simple, I would suggest you stick to the King's Indian setup that I showed you earlier, which means knight f6 and then you can play g6. We call this the Sicilian dragon variation. After this, you can fianchetto the bishop and then castle on the king side, similar to the King's Indian. This variation is quite easy to play since you don't have to do anything fancy. And at the same time, you also get into a very asymmetrical kind of a middle game where you have a lot of attacks and tactical ideas. Say for example, just after a few moves, white can castle on the queen side. Now both sides will push on opposite sides of the board and target the opponent's king, leading to some very sharp games. This opening has a very good win percentage for black, so you should definitely give it a shot and do let me know how it goes for you. Alright, so it's puzzle time. In this position, it is white's turn and you need to find the best move continuation for white. Do share